again, Carpenter here. I'm going to give you what is essentially the last update, or probably the last update, of my bicep surgery recovery. So for those of you who haven't been following, I ruptured my distal bicep tendon, either point at the elbow. I had surgery and then I did weekly video logs. So the whole idea of the weekly video logs were for people that went through the same procedure, wanted to see how fast you could regain muscle, how fast you could regain strength, what pains they could expect, what discomfort, etc, etc. So basically I did video logs week by week. I did this for a few weeks and then I stopped. So I stopped for two reasons. One, I don't like talking about myself that much and I thought it'd be boring to you guys. Secondly is the actual updates would have become more and more sparse. So for the first few weeks quite a lot was changing week by week, but then the changes were less noticeable week by week. So I didn't want to make videos just for the sake of making videos. So this has changed because I've had messages on YouTube or comments on YouTube, I've had messages via Twitter, I've had messages via Facebook. So I thought I'd make probably one last video, unless there's reason to update this later. So I'm at the 16-week mark. This is quite a big point because my surgeon told me to wait until the 16-week mark before I could reintroduce heavier weights. So 16 weeks today, or 16 weeks ago today, I had my surgery. Now, when I last saw him, which was at the 10-week mark, he was happy with my recovery. He told me to keep doing what I was doing, not put any extra stress on the bicep tendon yet. Then when I get to this point, I'm allowed to reintroduce slightly heavier weights with the idea of getting back to full strength by the 6-month mark. So basically the conversation went a bit like this. He asked me what I would consider a light weight prior to my injury. And obviously me being kind of panicky, I said, well, you know, it's relative. So for me, probably something I could curl 15 times or more. And he said, so what weight would that be? I said probably an 18 or a 20 kilo dumbbell. He said, okay, so by the 6-month mark, you want to try and be curling a 20 kilo dumbbell for 15 reps. So up until this point, I've been limited to a 5 kilo dumbbell in each arm or 10 kilos as a bar. So now I'm allowed to very, very slowly work my way up with the goal of getting back to full strength. When I say full strength, I still mean for higher reps, because the idea that I'm going to try and curl 30 kilo dumbbells for a small number of reps like I would before doesn't appeal to me at all now. I'm very, very kind of paranoid in that regard. So what have I been doing weight training wise, because a lot of people have asked me about this. Pressing work, I reintroduced relatively early. I used machines and very light weights, things I could do for 40 reps, just to make sure I could maintain the movement, maintain a little bit of strength. Obviously I didn't do anything that felt like it was putting any pressure on the bicep or bicep tendon. The reason I stuck with machines, one, I don't have to get them into position. So with a chest press, obviously, when you're lying back with the dumbbell, to me, if I did that, even with a relatively light dumbbell, if I was, let's say, pressing 30 kilo dumbbells, that is still way, way, way too much for me to get into position safely on my left arm. So barbell work and machine work has kind of been my saviour in that regard. Tricep work, he's again given me the all clear to do anyway, so my triceps are almost back to full strength, despite the fact that my left tricep is still a little bit smaller than my right. Back work, because I haven't been able to do any form of rows or pull downs because obviously stress on the tendon, I've been limited to straight arm movements. So things like straight arm reverse flies, like standing cable reverse flies, dumbbell bent over, lateral raises, things like that. There's also a lateral raise machine with the pads on the elbow, so it loads from the elbow rather than from the hand. And I've been doing bent over variations of that to again try and hit the upper back as best I can without putting any strain on the bicep tendon. So in terms of pain and movement and things like that, here's what I'm going to show you. So if I do my right arm, I can supinate to here. On my left, I can supinate to about there. There's no pain on the actual site of the surgery, but the muscles in the forearm feel a little bit stiff. So some EZ work, like if I'm doing very light cable curls or EZ bar curls, is quite painful to do that. Now pronation is the worst. So on my good arm, I can pronate to here, kind of just shy of fully flat. Whereas on my left, I can pronate to about there. And actually, if I bend at the elbow higher than that, that gets even more stiff. So if I pick up an empty EZ bar, which the one I'm using is about 8 kilos, I actually struggle to reverse curl it without any weight on it. So an 8 kilo reverse curl for me actually feels like it stresses the forearm quite a lot, because I've definitely lost some pronation and supination. So yeah, I've got some forearm stiffness. I have no pain on the bicep site itself. I have no pain here. You can see the scar there, but I have no pain here. It's just muscles in the forearm that are doing that. So basically the point I'm at now, a lot of my tricep lifts and bench press lifts are kind of up to about 70% of the strength they were before. Very, very shaky. Like the first time I tried doing barbell press, I was doing 30 kilos and I was wobbling all over the place. It looked like it was my first day in the gym. I'm off to, the last video I made, I was actually going to Ibiza the following Saturday. So I'm off to Las Vegas next week for the Olympia Expo, a massive expo in Las Vegas. So obviously for me, I'd like to look as good as possible. So that's been my kind of end goal, to try and get my arm back to at least a size where people wouldn't immediately recognise it was smaller, because I know it's not likely to get to 100% yet. They said a year to 2 years before it would be back to full size. So for me being at the 4-month mark and it being pretty close, I'm quite happy with that. So if I do them both, so good arm, you'll see like that. I appreciate this isn't the best light. And then the bad arm. So to me, it's not that bad. There is a little bit of difference. Now what you'll notice is the tricep. You'll see here on the inside, on the medial head, the tricep on my good arm is bigger than on my left. But this is significantly less noticeable than it was even 3 or 4 weeks ago. So on the whole, things are improving. So if I have measured them, and if I measure them, there is a slight difference between the two. But you know what? The surgeon said it would take 1 year to 2 years for it to be towards the size and strength it was before. Not the full size and strength, he just said almost there. So for me to be at this point for 4 months, I'm pretty happy. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. It could be a lot worse. So yeah, on the whole, I think things are going well. I've done it as best I can. I've utilised, say, occlusion training or blood flow restriction training, so I can try and get a kind of a muscle building response, even though I'm only limited to very, very light weights. I've changed the exercises quite a lot, because I've tried to make 5 kilos relatively difficult, whether it's slowing down the tempo, Fred Hahn, slow burn training and stuff like that. Whatever it is, I've tried to progress as much as I can whilst keeping the weights limited. So now I can go from 5 kilos to 6 kilos to 7 kilos to 8 kilos and work my way up. So hopefully over the course of the next, let's say 4 weeks or so, there should be quite a big improvement in terms of my strength. So that's it. This might be my last ever video on the topic, unless for whatever reason more people kind of send me messages and ask me for updates or anything like that. So that's it. I hope it's been helpful. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask. My Facebook page is facebook.com/Ben Carpenter Personal Training. My Twitter and Instagram pages are both BDC Carpenter. Thanks for watching. Bye.